Okay, now we are up to the second last stage of completing our ugly doll. That's putting our stuffing in, and the last stage will be closing up the hole that we've left to get our stuffing in. So this is how we do it. So I've got my needle and thread already threaded up, but we're going to look at how to get the stuffing in. Now, if you just go and do a great big clump and try and get that through that hole, that is just making far too much effort for yourself. I need to make sure I've got small amounts that can get up to all these small areas before I start filling the center body of mine. So I'm going to get smaller tufts and roll them up, probably even half of that. Use my hands to kind of roll them up and make a bit of a ball. Get that through my little opening that I've left open. And you can use your finger to get it in there and shuffle it all the way up. If you press too hard, your stitching might come undone, especially if it's very wide, so try not to do that. Another thing that helps us, and that's feeling a bit puffy, it might be a bit hard to see, but you can see it's filled out. Another thing you can do to get up to harder to reach places, rolling it in my hand, and then I'm going to get it right up to that top horn, is you can use a blunt kind of wooden something. Pencils are not ideal because they have grey lead that will mark things, and also this is quite pointed. It's more likely to poke a hole between my stitching. So something like a wide paintbrush or a wooden spoon works well. And I'm going to feel inside till I find that little ball of fluff that I shoved in there and push that up to the tip. Now I actually feel like that tip is still not filled out. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to pull that out, get my fingers in there, pull that out. I'm going to get a smaller bit to get right up into that tip there. Roll it in my hands. Roll, roll, roll. So I've got a tight little ball and push it all the way up to that pointed little narrow horn. So those people that have quite narrow arms or limbs, whatever it is that you've got, you're going to need to do a lot of this. So small balls, rolling it in your hand so it all gathers up, and then pushing it right up into those, well, you could call it extremities, end bits of your ugly doll. And roll that so all the fibres get together, and then pushing it up with my finger. I might want to try with the wooden spoon up into that tip. I still think I could have done a better job of that one. I'm going to do that again. Weasel it a little bit like that. So I've got a nice tight ball of fluff in there, I can feel now. A little bit more fluff. Rolling it and then into all these end bits. I've got to do the kind of middle part of his horn now, on the very tip, middle part. I need to do this arm, this leg, and then I'm going to fill his head and main part of his body. I'm going to do a small bit because I want to get up into this tip that I know is quite narrow. So quite a small ball. And tucking it up into there. Now this is part of the reason why I asked you to make all your small little points on your ugly doll design quite large to make it easier to sew, because I had a lot of trouble here, but also to get the stuffing in. So I'm going to keep doing that to all my extremities. Okay, now I can start making my balls a bit bigger. I've done all the furthest points, so now I'm going to start filling the head, and I can make my balls larger. Now I have filled all the extremities. If you give it a squeeze, you can feel how much stuffing is in there. Sometimes you might want to get that stick and make sure that those areas that you can feel are a little bit flat has a bit more stuffing. Poke it all through a little bit more. Something you really need to be careful of is when you are putting your fingers in here and making sure that you're getting all your stuffing in there, is actually being careful of your stitching here, that you don't pull too much on it. So either the felt tears or your stitching comes undone. You can see that that stitch there is a bit bigger. I'm not sure if it was because it was a bigger stitch or if it's been a little bit rough and it's beginning to come undone. Otherwise you're going to have to go over it again. So be gentle with your opening, and make sure that you have enough stuffing here before you close it up, because that's your last place you're going to put stuffing in. Make sure you've got a good amount of stuffing there. Check that it's all filled out, because once you sew it up, you're not going to be able to get any more stuffing in. So, still think I want a little bit more. Some of the felt is going to be a little bit more flexible than some of the others. Now I'm pretty happy with his thickness all the way around. So now I'm going to stitch him up. Again, I'm just going to continue with the edging stitch that I've done here. I've got my needle with my chunky knot, loose end, all threaded up, ready to go. I want my chunky knot to hide on the inside again, so I'm going to stitch only through one bit of fabric, so my chunky knot will land on the inside, and then I'm going to keep going around and doing my edging stitch. All stitched up, no stuffing coming out. And now I need to finish it off, so I'm going to do my usual trick of doing a few tight stitches on top of each other to try and be as inconspicuous as possible. And another trick that I might do is actually running a stitch in through there. So I've got a long bit of thread, but it's actually going to be hiding on the inside. So it's less likely to come undone. Trim that off. And now I'm all done. You can see my chunky stitch there, but that's going to happen somewhere. Got a few bits of fluff. And he's completed. Isn't he so cute and yet ugly? I wonder what we'll call him. Okay, good luck boys and girls. Your turn now.